gonna record this in case. All right, everybody can see my screen here.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so starting from here in the mission editor, so everybody's ready. For those who wants to do the same thing at the same time, who want to play with the mission editor at the same time, or you just good to
Yep.
watch the stream. All right. Okay, mission editor. We're gonna create a new mission. So really, the purpose of this, I don't know if it's a training or whatever, of in session today. It's really to make sure that you guys are comfortable to create a mission and propose the mission on the website for the squadron. I keep saying that, but the pillars of every squadron, of any squadron, it's their mission editors, no matter what anyone says. If there's no missions, there's no one to create missions, there's no squadrons basically, because there's no opportunity to fly really. So we don't have we don't putting any rules, very strong rules on the missions. If we have someone who is happy to create a mission, doesn't matter if it's super simple or super complex. There's no rule as you must do this and you must do that. So every mission designer have their own style. It's a creative process. And I'm always saying the mission, designing a mission, maybe half of the work is having the idea, having the coming up with a story. Once you got the story, once you got the idea, the other half of the work is creating the mission. But there's a big part in creating the mission is really to come up with the idea, to come up with a story that you think you'd like to implement in a mission. Again, there's a lot of, for those who hesitate to go into the mission designer or the mission builder, it's been better recently. So they really improved the interface, but it's still pretty bad. So it's not ideal, but compared to what we had a few years before, it improved a lot, and it's getting much easier now to create a mission. So I'm saying there's no rules really for the mission design in BSD. There's two rules that you probably know actually, and that's probably the only ones that we have for mission design. There's no PvP. Okay, so we're not playing Counter-Strike here, so there's no helicopter versus helicopter. We don't think it's really realistic, and it's usually it ends up really badly if you're doing that within a squadron. The only PvP that we tried at some point is combined arms versus helicopters, and again it didn't work very well. So some people got a little bit bitter of people playing combined arms and having fun shooting down helicopters. So no PvP really, and cooperative missions are the only rules really we ask you guys to follow when you're doing a mission. Everything else you can do whatever you want. It's really free, and we're not trying to restrict the creativity of the mission designer here, because we love the mission designer and we'd like to have more mission designers so we can have more missions. Any questions so far? No?
No.
All right. Okay. So I'm stopping here at the new mission settings because this is something maybe you're not spending too much time on. It used to be critical because not so long ago, once you are deciding about who is red and who is blue, there was no real way, no easy way to change that. So it was a pain at some point when you realize that you wanted a certain type of equipment in your mission on whatever side, and you realize this equipment belongs to a country or belonged to a country that was not on the side you set it up initially. Then you were screwed. You had to restart the mission from scratch because you had to redefine the who is red, whose country is red, whose country is blue. And you had to start the mission all over again. They changed that recently, so you're able to switch countries from red to blue, but it's very recent. I haven't even played with that recently, but it's not as critical. The way you're choosing the the countries in blue, red, and now neutral. So there's a neutral position now. It's kind of important. You have to think about what type of equipment you want to have. I'm usually using only one set of setup. It's saved in the game. So once you set up your red countries and your blue countries, it's saved in DCS, and every time you're opening the mission editor, it stays the same. So you don't have to start from scratch all over again. I realize I have only Caucasus because I have a problem now for the activation, but it doesn't matter. We're going to do a mission with Caucasus. One piece of advice that I'm usually doing, I'm always using East Bloc country in the blue side. And usually what I'm doing is I'm using Ukraine. Ukraine having the same type of equipment as Russia. So if you are setting Russia in the red side, you can have Eastern Bloc equipment on the red side. You might want to keep Ukraine on the blue side because they're having pretty much the same type of equipment, and it gives you a more flexibility in the type of weapons you want to use on either side. If an insurgents, almost systematically, of course, I put insurgent onto the red side. Insurgent, they have some specific equipment. But I would say you want to have Russia on the red because they have all the Eastern Bloc equipment. Every other country have part of Russia equipment, but they don't have all the Russian equipment. So if you're into having an SA, I don't know, SA 19 or SA, I don't know, SA 9, I'm just saying that randomly, but an equipment that you want to be on the red side, but for example, you put only Syria on the red side, and they don't have this equipment, although it's Eastern Bloc, then you want to have Russia, so it gives you the full flexibility for all the equipment you want from the Eastern Bloc. Okay, does it make sense for you guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So I'm usually doing that. Like I have at least Russia on the red. I have at least Ukraine on the blue, and of course the usual guys: USA, UK, Spain, France, blah blah blah, Australia. I mean, as long as you have USA on the blue. I mean, if you want to do this kind of thing, of course, but if you want to have USA on the blue and Russia on the red, having Ukraine gives you a little bit more flexibility. You should be good. Okay, so let's create a mission here. All right. So, like I just said, creating a mission, half of the work of creating a mission is coming up with an idea of what you want to do. So, well, I don't know. We're not going. I don't have any idea. But well, let's suppose we have some scenario we want to run. When you're creating a mission, there's very often I'm hearing from the people who are starting to build a mission. Oh yes, but mission you need to have scripts. You have to run scripts and stuff to do a cool mission, to do a really nice mission. It's absolutely false. You don't need to be a script god to run really cool missions. I mean, actually, you have really nice mission that just use the basic trigger system from the mission editor. And you don't have to use script. You don't have to be a scripter to design a really good mission. So that's just a preconceived idea and a lot of people are reluctant to go into mission design because they believe they have to learn script language, which is absolutely not true. Another thing also is there's very often I've seen a new mission designer who wants to go big the first time. They want to have a mission where everyone can fly, and they're doing like 30 or 40 slots for a super huge mission. I think it's kind of obvious, but the bigger the mission, the more complex it becomes. Mostly because the more people you have flying the mission, the more different scenario you have to cater for. Okay, so very often you think that a flight will fly this way. You think they're going to be following the most logical way. They're going to be okay. Let's say, do you see my pointer here? By the way.
No.
No. Okay. How can I use
Use the measuring tool.
the measuring tool? Yeah, you're good. Okay. Here you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So say I don't know, you have for some reason you say, okay, I'm gonna have those guys taking off from Senaki, and I want them to engage something here, like there's gonna be a threat here. You often assume that they're gonna be doing the logical thing, what sounds logical for you. So they say, okay, they're probably gonna be following up down this valley, and then this is where I'm gonna put my surprise attack here. So I'm sure they're gonna fly along here. So I'm gonna put some triggers that will, I don't know, pop up some new units, and it's gonna be fun. And you take a lot of assumption that people will think the same way than you, and they will be choosing the most logical route. That if you have something to kill here, most likely they will be flying along this valley, and all your mission will be centered around this. And then the day comes, the big day comes. You have your mission. People are joining the mission, and you realize that they plan a completely different route. So you have all your triggers working along this valley, but actually the guys, for some reason, they think that it would be better to fly along this valley and attack your targets from the east, from the west, instead of going through the east or through the south. And all your mission is fucked up because there's nothing you thought about. There's no threat really that you thought about following up this valley. This valley here. Why my distance? Okay. You never thought that those guys could fly along here instead of flying along the main valley here. So the more people you have, the most different situation you have to think, or you have to come up with. Okay, so don't try at your first time unless you really want to, but don't try to do those big missions first time. It's okay if you have 10 slots, if you have maybe 5 slots if you want, 10 slots, 15 slots. If you're trying straight on from having 50 people, you're hoping to have 50 people on the mission. First, it's going to be really difficult to have 50 people on the mission for the time being. The other thing is, with 50 people flying, there's a very, very high chance of your mission will probably fail, because there's a lot of options, there's a lot of ways to fly the mission coming up in the mind of 50 different people that you haven't thought about. Okay? So start slow. Don't go for the big mission straight on for your first mission. I did that for my first mission. I had a 30 slots mission for my previous squads, and it failed in a spectacular way because I haven't thought about some of the cases, and I haven't tested it.
I often see new mission builders. They use a very large area, especially for helicopters. And
so that's something also important. You're right to highlight this. I would say most of the fixed wing squad I've known or we've been flying with have no idea of the performances and the area we can cover from helicopters. It's just that the mission designer most of the time are not helicopter pilots. They're not flying DSS helicopter, and you're coming up with flights that you have to fly like 150 kilometers, like 100 miles across the land before you can reach your destination. So it's going to take you like 40 minutes to an hour to go there, and then you ending up with a bunch of Tunguskas shooting at you at the same time. So you're blowing up in the skies as soon as you reach your EA, and then you have to start all over again. That's the worst mission you ever flown. It's probably working well if you are in a fixed wing, because 100 miles it's really not a big deal, and some of those guys can handle Tunguskas. The problem is for helicopter, it's just going to be a nightmare. So, and I think you guys know exactly how it works. So it's not like I really need to tell you that. But yes, when you're building your mission, try to minimize the length or the time it takes for one helicopter to reach the target area. I'm usually looking at something between 25, 35 35 kilometers. So about 20 miles, 25 miles, 30 miles. That's a good time. You don't want your mission really to last more than 2 or 3 hours. Like when the mission is longer than 3 hours, it's really a long mission. People will start to get tired. It's going to be late for some of us. If it's in a week, then you don't want to go to bed too late because you have to work the next day. So the mission really, ideally, a mission should last between 2 to 2.5 hours. When you're starting to reach about 3 hours, that's getting long. And I've seen mission lasting 4.5 hours. That's too much. That's too much. So 25, 30 miles. Okay, maximum maybe 50 kilometers. If you have something at the end and you need to engage, maximum 50 kilometers is good. Okay. A little thing I'm doing systematically also is when you have this kind of long flight, like say maybe 50 kilometers, I'm always having some FARP nearby for respawns. A FARP or anything. I mean, I'm putting some helicopter for respawns that is not as far as 50 kilometers, because when you're flying for 20 minutes to reach a destination, and you're getting shot down the moment you reach the engagement area, and you're getting shot down, and you just spend 20 minutes flying there. For some of them, some of us, there's a good chance that you say, okay, you know what, I'm calling in a night because I don't want to fly another 20 minutes again. So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I got some disconnections. All right. Okay. Yeah. So it's always a good idea, maybe halfway, to have some respawns. So not something that people can use at the beginning of the mission, but some helicopters that the people are allowed to use if they get shot down after a long flight, just to avoid the frustration. So we talked about the distance for helicopters. In terms of threats also, I think you should be, the difficulties, you kind of have to have an idea of what every helicopter can handle. Yes, the K-50s can handle the heavy tanks, for example. The Gazelle also have anti-tank missiles, but you don't want to have a bunch of Hueys, for example, getting too close to T-72s or 55s. It doesn't make sense. But that's I think you guys know this anyway. You've been flying mission with BSD for a while, so you know that you don't want crazy threats nearby helicopter that cannot handle them. So know every helicopters, have an idea of what helicopters can do. In terms of capabilities, so obviously 12.7s or 20 millimeters is not going to work well on very heavy tanks. Again, if you have a bunch of K-50s, don't assign them troops, for example. It's kind of a waste of Vickers to have them shooting down a bunch of AK-47s. So try to get something a little bit balanced. And again, what I'm saying is, like, you don't have to cater for everyone. If you want to try your first mission, a small mission, and you want to really, your ID is based on maybe having a bunch of a couple of K-50s and a few Hueys flying, that's okay. You don't need to make everyone happy, okay? If your ID is based on a reduced number of helicopters, do it. Nobody will say, well, you're doing a mission, but we cannot fly it, so it sucks. Nobody's going to say that, okay? All right. What do I want to say? Oh, yes. We talk about the distance again. Have an idea of how long the helicopter can fly also. So it's roughly, every helicopter in DCS is between 2 hours to 2.5 hours. Okay. So there's a slight variation depending on the weather, if it's very hot or if it's very high. It does have an influence on the helicopters, but if you don't need to go into this kind of details. Just keep in mind about 2.5 hours for the K-50, for the Mi-8. Mi-8 can do a little bit more. The Huey is fine with 2.5 hours. The Gazelle is more on the 2 hours side. and when the 58D is coming out, I think it might be less than 2 hours, probably around 2 hours. I don't know about the 24 and the 64, but my guess it's probably going to be around 2.5 hours also. But if you respecting this limit of maximum 50 kilometers for the flight time to whatever engagement area, 2.5 hours is fine. It's usually fine. If you think it's going to take more, again, have a FARP nearby and set it up for refueling, rearming. We're going to see how we're going to do that. All right. Okay. I'm trying to organize my thought here. How we're going to start. Did all of you guys been through the different menus for the different icons here? You know what it is? Yes? Anyone have never seen that? Okay. All right. Okay. So if you have any questions, yeah.
Played around with them, so I know them.
All right. Okay, good. All right, so let's try to make a quick mission, and I think we're gonna address the different things as we are placing objects and stuff. So I started to say, well, first, we're not gonna use scripts. The only script that really we kind of using systematically, but again, don't be alarmed. It's very easy. It's what Fargos has been putting on the GitHub website on this website or on Discord is a CTLD and Caesar. Okay, and it's really. I mean, Fargo tried to make it really plug and play. So there's not a lot, if not any customization you need to do. There's not a need for you to know script to use the CTLD, Fargo CTLD and Caesar script. Okay, but I'm just going to show you how it works because that's the first thing. If you want to be able to pick up troops, use the logistic functions or having a Caesar function in your mission, you need to do this. The first thing you need to do is to do this to put this into your mission. All right. So let's say we haven't started the mission, but I know I want to have CTLD and Caesar. I'm gonna add CTLD. So if you guys haven't heard about this, whenever you're editing a text file in DCS and a LUA file, which are basically all the files are LUA files in DCS, you cannot use Notepad, the default notepad.exe from Windows to edit those things, because the way it's kind of said that the way Notepad is saving those text files is screwing up DCS. You're going to have errors, you're going to have crashes if you're starting to edit those files using the Notepad in Windows. So you have to have what everybody is using today to edit those UA files is called Notepad++. I don't know if you heard about this. Do you guys have this installed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I use it all the time. It's the best one.
Yeah, it's the best one, and also it's the way it saves the files will not corrupt the files in DCS, and you will avoid the crashes. Let me open. I'm going to open that just to make sure I have it. I'm going to use a recent. So Fargo is updating all the time the CTLD. It keeps adding stuff and functionalities. I mean, it's adding so many functionalities very fast that sometimes I'm having a hard time to follow up all the new things that are available. But it doesn't really change the way you you add that into your mission. Okay, let me find back up here. I'm gonna just open the file and I'm gonna show you that.
I have a question. The scripting is all in Lua?
Yeah, that's Lua files. Yeah, the script is saved as a Lua file. Yeah.
So it's the Lua language that's used for the scripting.
Yes. It's I mean, if you are a little bit familiar with not scripting but with language, the programming language, it's not very hard. But again, you don't need to know that for what you want to do here.
I did some programming, so I do see a lot of Lua files, and I recognize a lot of it. So.
Gonna use the latest one. Training 2021. Okay, I think the latest one I've been using is the one called CTLD March 0321. So I think that's the last version so far from Fargo. So okay, let's go. We are going to add the CTLD, so it's pretty, well, it's not pretty easy, but let's say we're going to the trigger panel here. So that's this little, how do you call that? Switch sign, whatever. Well, the trigger here in that case. And the first thing you want to add we're going to use CTLD and Caesar. You're going to create a new trigger, okay? That you're going to call whatever. We're going to use the phase one. So we're going to load CTLD1. Actually, we need to use mist. Okay, so we're going to load mist. So what is mist? Mist is a set of functions, of predefined function that CTLD is using. So it's kind of a library, okay, that you must have into your mission to be able to load CTLD. So the first thing you need to do in your mission, if you want to use CTLD, is to load this mist library. I think it comes with, if you're going on GitHub, what Fargo's is been doing is he's got, when you're downloading CTLD, you can also download mist. It's something you can find also on the forum, on the ED forum. And if you cannot find the mist file on the ED forum, we can send that to you. You need to make sure you have the right version. I'm using 4.4.9, but okay. That's just you have to know you have to load mist on your mission, and mist is a set of functions that is being used later by CTLD. So you have to load mist first, and then you have to load CTLD. So let's create a trigger. So once load mist conditions, what you have to do for this kind of thing is to make sure that the mission is already started. If you're loading a script at time 0, so just when the mission starts, for some reason it doesn't work very well. And it might eventually fail to load the proper scripts. So you want to load the scripts after the mission starts, maybe 1 second after the mission starts. So what you're going to use is this condition, timer 1. All the times here are in seconds, okay? So I want to load this script, so load mist when time is more than 1, so 1 second after the mission starts. And my action is going to be do script file, and you're going to look for the script file, and you're going to load mist, okay, 4490. There you go. All right, so that's your first thing you want to do. After 1 second, load the script file. Another thing that I'm doing in the actions while I'm still here, CTLD and Caesar, they need some sound files. Do I have them here? They need it to work properly. So it's just a constraint we have. For example, you remember when Caesar, when someone crashed and it eject, you have the Caesar script launching a sound file like a beep or a call for a request Caesar. That's when you need to load those files. So all the sound files that are required for your mission will be loaded inside your mission file. That's why sometimes, when people are adding radios with music, your mist file is getting really big. So if you're adding an MP3 or OGG or WAV into your mission, and it's like 4 or 6 megs, then your mission is starting really big because every sound file is directly stored into the mist file. If you want to know what's inside a mist file, it's actually a zip file. So here's the thing: if you have a mist file on your hard drive and you renaming the extension from mist to zip, the file is becoming a zip file. You double click on the zip file, and WinZip or whatever you're using will open it, and you see all the structure of the mission inside it. So that's the mist file is actually a zip file with a specific structure, but you can actually extract the anything you want, including the mission file, including the sounds, including the scripts. Everything is into this one big zip file, and there's no protection here. So you can
you can associate it with the zip also, so you don't have to change the file.
Yeah, that's
ending.
a good point. Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea. So yeah, when you a good thing also is when you flying a mission, this Miz file is also loaded, so you can actually save it and use it for later. So whenever you have and it's saved into the tracks. Okay, so you can also get the Miz file from the tracks because it's contained into the tracks file. Okay. So what did we do? We load this mist file. What I'm using usually after 1 second is I'm also loading the sounds required for CTLD and Caesar. So to load the sounds, you have to play the sounds. Okay. So I'm gonna play a sound. So sound to a country. So you need to play this sound to something that in order that nobody will hear it when you're loading it. So say if you have US helicopters and you're doing a sound to country US, and everybody when after 1 second will hear this sound. So that's going to be weird. So you just want to play this sound in order to have this sound file into the mission. Nothing else. You don't want the people to hear them when they're jumping into the game. So you have to do a sound to country, for example, and choose a country that you know does not exist in your mission. I don't know. I'm going to use like South Korea. I know I'm never going to have South Koreans or North Koreans units in my mission anyway, and I'm going to choose the files that are required by CTLD. CTLD requires 2 files, and it's provided with the download. Okay, once you have CTLD, you got those 2 files. It's called beacon.org. Okay, and you need a second file called beacon silent. So, and something I'm doing just to save time, I'm clicking on sound to country and doing a clone here. All right, so I have exactly the same thing. I'm just going to change beacon silent. Okay, and doing this makes the 2 file loaded into your Miss file. Any questions so far? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Caesar also need 1 sound file, so I'm going to do it also here. And so all the sound files going to be loaded after 1 second. I'm going to use a clone because it's just I'm lazy, and I'm going to play to the North Korean Caesar. Okay. If you want to make sure that the sound file, you're not going to hear much about beacon and beacon silent. Caesar, you can put whatever you want. This one is Leroy Jenkins, but you have also a request Caesar sound. I mean, it needs to be named the same thing. So you can put whatever you want into caesar.org, but it needs to be called caesar.org. Okay, doesn't matter what the org file says, but it needs to be named Caesar because that's the way it's coded into the script.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do they have to be in this order, those org files?
No. You can load the org files pretty much. Actually, you can load the org files anytime you want. But in order to be logical, for me, it's the way I'm working, and I want to have all my files, all the file required by the script loaded before, and then loading the script. But if you're loading the script and you're loading the sound file after, it usually works. It's not a big deal.
No, I meant after you load the script, I missed. But the sequence of the files, for example, the first one is beacon.org, beacon silent, Caesar.
No, you can put whatever in whatever sequence you want. It doesn't matter because it's done at virtually it's done. Everything is done at the same time. Okay. So it's gonna load the script file and it's gonna load all the files, but there's no real sequence here. You cannot expect this to follow a sequence. It's gonna be done at the same time, simultaneously.
Yeah, you make a trigger. You call it load mist. You give it time, and then in the actions it does all the actions with a trigger load mist.
Yeah. So after 1 second, 1 second after the mission starts, all these things will be done in the same time. Okay.
And that load mist is just a name you gave to the trigger to identify for yourself what action is you have programmed.
Yeah, the name of the trigger doesn't matter. It gives a default name that doesn't make sense, but it's just a bunch of numbers. If you're happy with leaving the name, you can call it whatever you want. A rabbit like this, it's gonna work. It's not a command. It's just a name for you to find and to remember how the thing works. So if you want to remember, okay, what does this trigger does? It's just this loading mist, okay? But it doesn't matter. It's just the name of the trigger. It's not going to have any consequences. You can even give colors also here. So you can set a color for all the triggers, for example, that load something at the beginning. So you can put that into red, and then triggers that are specific to an event. You can put another color. It's really a matter of having something a little bit organized, but that's just for you. The DCS doesn't care at all what name you're giving to the trigger, and the color you're giving to the trigger. It doesn't matter at all. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Clear. Thank you.
I'm going to save that. Okay, save as. I'm going to call this demo or training mission design 2021. Okay.
Just a small question.
Yes.
Those tracks, so those track TRK files are also misfiles.
Yeah. Yes. So if you I think if you're renaming them zip files also, I think you might be able to look and find the mis file inside it.
I already opened one with my zip account, but those are just zip mis files with a different name because they came in from the server you're flying.
Yeah. So when you're jumping into a mission, the mis file is going to be loaded with it on your computer. And I think the mis file, I don't want to say something stupid because I haven't done that for a long time, but I think the mis file is also contained into the track file, so you might be able to find the mis file into the track file too.
Yeah, I think you only have to rename it,
Yeah.
then it works. If the server allows export of data.
Yeah. And it does on the BSD server. All the export data is enabled. All right, let's continue on the so we loaded Mist. Now we say we want to load CTLD. Okay, so because I'm lazy, you have to be lazy. I'm going to clone this trigger. Okay, I'm going to call it load CTLD. Instead of 1 second, I'm going to load CTLD after 2 seconds. Okay, and I'm going to do a script file. CTLD, I'm going to use the latest version. I don't need to load the sounds anymore, so I'm just going to remove that. If I can, yes. Delete. No, okay. Hold on. Here you go. All right. So my trigger is happening once only. You will see that there's different thing. Mission start. Don't use mission start usually. You don't really want to do that. The thing you're gonna do the most is once and switch condition. We're gonna talk a little bit about repetitive actions. Mission start almost never use mission start. Mostly because what I do at the beginning of the mission is just loading the script, and loading the script at mission start usually screw things up or incorrectly load the script. So you want to wait a little bit. So this trigger will work only once, and it will run after 1 second the mission starts, load the script, and load the sounds. The second trigger will happen once after 2 seconds, after 2 seconds after the mission start, and it will load CTLD. And then you want to load Caesar. So again, I'm going to clone this because I'm lazy. Caesar after 3 seconds, and I'm going to load my Caesar file, which is not here. Great. Where is it? Caesar. Here you go. All right. Once you have done that, you're good to go. You have the layout. You have the basic layout for your mission. to embark people, to load specific loads like the anti-tank group or whatever. Everything that Fargo has been implementing in CATLD should be available here once you have done that. Same for Caesar. Any aircraft that will crash, there's nothing you have to do here. Any aircraft will crash will call for Caesar and give the coordinates and drop a beacon and all this kind of thing. You have everything into your F10 menu. All right, so there's no script here. There's no scripting involved. It's just you want to have CTLD and Caesar. It's kind of, I'm not saying it's mandatory, but it's kind of nice to have it for helicopter missions. So if you want to have them, this is the way it works. Is it okay so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to save that. Always save. That's a generic rule. Always save. It sucks when you have some crash and you have a bunch of triggers and you have the crash and you lost everything. Okay, so we have the basic here. One thing about the name of the mission and the file title. As you see, I called my mission training, mission design or training MD 2021. This is not how it's going to look like when you're loading the mission. To have the name of the mission probably set up, you have to go to this little icon here. I don't know if you see that, the blue one. Create mission briefing. And you have to name your mission here in sortie. All right, so whatever, training, mission design. So when you're going on the master server, for example, this is what the name, the title of the mission that will shows on the master server. It's not the name of your MIS file. All right, so you can give a different name if you want, but the name that will show up on the master server will be this one, sortie. You can add pictures, so briefing image panel, okay, for blue, neutrals, and red. I mean, I'm not going to do this, but you just click on the plus and you're adding whatever picture you want to do, okay. The picture, it works up until normally they should be squared. If you don't have a square picture, if you have a 16:9 or a different ratio, it might be compressed a little bit, so it might be looking a little bit weird. Also, the definition, you don't need to put a 4K picture into the mission. Not only it will take a lot of room on a lot of space in the mission file, but also there's no point because it's not going to be displayed at 4K. The maximum resolution for mission pictures in DCS, I think that's just what is it? That's just an HD. That's just 1K. Or 1024 times 768. I think that's the ratio that works now for DCS picture. So really small ones. All right. Good. Okay. This is where you put the briefing. So situation is a text that will show when you are when you haven't chosen yet your helicopter, okay? And then once you choose your helicopter and you click to fly, depending on what helicopter, what style you are, red or blue, this is the text that will show. So this is the situation generally that will show for everyone. And then once you jump into your blue helicopter, for example, you're gonna press fly. No, you're not gonna press fly. You'll press enter the mission, and you'll see the blue task described here. So it's a two-stage. There's no formatting available here. You just have to copy pasting text, and you cannot put you cannot use italic or bold or anything. It's not HTML at all. It's just text file. There's nothing fancy here. Okay, weather. So the weather, should we talk about this now? Is it important? Well, it's kind of important. Yeah, it's important. That's the second thing I'm doing. Okay, so once I got this set, the next thing I'm going to weather. The weather is super important because if you getting the wrong weather for your mission, then your mission might fail eventually. If you want to go really hardcore and do some crazy IMC stuff, and for some reason you setting up the seating too low. Below the or you're setting your targets area into the clouds, and obviously it's going to fail. What's important here is the date. Why is it important? Because it will define sunset and sunrise, and it works for every date. So if you want to know the sunset and sunrise, if you're doing like 2021, what day are we? The 14, okay. 14 of March 2021. In your mission, you will actually have the correct sunset, the correct sunrise time. And you need to go on some website. I think I mean you just go on the website. I think it's what website I'm using. It's in the briefings. Set time. I forgot the name, but you can find the sunset and sunrise for every date, whatever. So whatever date you're using, remember that if you're using winter time, it is likely that there will be a very early sunset. If you're going into summertime, you can fly a little bit later, and there will be enough light to fly later in the evening, or at least late in the afternoon. Okay. Another thing important is the date you're setting up your mission will also define the moon phase. So if you want to do a night mission with no moon, then you have to look at the right date to make sure that because it's also simulated in DCS. If you want to do a moonless flight, you have to look at this also on the website and see what's going on here. If you're choosing by mistake, if you want to do a night flight, and by mistake you're choosing a full moon, it's not going to be a very hard mission, because at full moon you don't even need NVG most of the time. If you're flying PG or Syrian on the Syrian map at full moon, there's almost no need for NVG. So you have to keep that in mind. We're not going to go into dynamic because it's a little bit complicated. We're just going to use static weather. But static weather, obviously, temperature is super important. If you want to have icing conditions, if you really want to have icing conditions, you have to set the temperature right. Keep in mind that this is a temperature at sea level, and the temperature decreases 2 degrees every 1,000 feet. It's actually simulated in DCS. So if you're setting up your temperature at 15 degrees sea level, but you're actually taking off at 5,000 feet on somewhere on the FOP you set up at 5,000 feet, it's going to be much colder than 15 degrees. Okay, it's going to be 10 degrees colder. Does it make sense?
Yes.
All right. Okay, keep that in mind. Questions? Okay. Base and thickness. Well, it's kind of easy. The clouds are usually the cloud cover is usually set up in eighths. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 being starting from 7 already. 6, 7 it's already overcast, and 1 is clear, and 5 is like broken. For some reason in DCS they're setting that up to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is pretty clear. 5 is broken, and then when you're starting to go 8, 9, and 10, it's getting overcast. An interesting thing here is you have no precipitation available when you're in low density, but as you're getting higher, you see you have rain now, and if you're going even higher, now you have rain and thunderstorm available in precipitations. Okay. So you cannot have thunderstorm if you have a cloud cover at 1 or 0, obviously. If you have no clouds, there's not going to be any thunderstorms. And if you don't have if you don't have enough clouds, same thing. You're not going to have thunderstorm, but you're going to have rain anyway. If you want to have snow, you need to be colder than 20 degrees. Okay, so if I'm setting up 2 degrees, and I have, doesn't work. Okay, I thought you can have snow normally. Rain. I think it's rain. It's going to be rain, but it's going to be snow. I think if you're setting up rain and it's cold, it might be snow. Oh no. Okay, here you go. Sorry. Okay, you need to have negative temperature. Okay, so when you have negative temperature, snow, you can have snow and snowstorm. All right, but you need to have some density here. If you don't have enough clouds at negative temperature, you're gonna just have snow, and starting from I think 8 or 9, no, 9, yeah, starting from 9 density, you have snowstorm.
And it's only one cloud layer, I see.
Sorry? Yeah, it's only one cloud layer, so it's gonna change. You've seen in the next release, 2.7. There's gonna be predefined weather where you can have several layers of clouds. I'm not sure it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna look awesome. I don't know. You guys have seen the you guys have seen the screenshots. It's gonna look awesome, but I'm not sure it's gonna be super interesting for us, because really what we care about is the first layer. The high layers, it's rarely relevant. But maybe if you have an idea where you can use a class and the predefined weather that DCS will give, Ed will give us, might work, then let's use that. But anyway. I guess really what matters is really the first layer. So remember the base. You don't want to fly IMC. You want to avoid flying IMC as much as you can in a helicopter. So make sure you're not ending up with a helicopter flying in the clouds, because usually that's a very exhausting mission for those who survive the IMC flight. QNH doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but I mean, you see how it works. The wind, obviously, well, it's rare that you're gonna need to set up a wind at 8,000 meters, but you want to set up winds at 10, 500, and 2,000 meters. Winds are in meter per second, not knots, and also this is showing it's not working how it should work. So the wind direction is actually where the wind is blowing to, not where the wing is coming from. So I always get confused with that after 10 years of doing missions. But once you set up your wind, say for example we take off from Kobileti and you want to use runway 07 here for takeoff, whether it's for your helicopter or for AI fixed wing aircraft, you have to make sure that the wind is set up properly. So normally the wind needs to blow, if you want to use 07, the wind needs to blow from 07, which means that it needs to blow in this direction. Okay, I think. I'm always get confused. So usually I'm setting up a wind direction, and then I'm checking out the smoke, or I'm setting up the windsock, make sure that it's in line with how I set it up. Okay. The layer between 10 and 500, they are linked. So there's a gradient that is automatically implemented if you're setting up the wind at 10 meters at 7 meters per second, then automatically you have 15 meters per second at 500 meters. Now you can set up whatever you want at 2000 though. Okay, and same for 8000. Turbulence, you can play with that. It never really matters. I mean, unless you're putting some insane values, and if you're putting like a really big value here, then you're gonna start to feel it. If you're putting small value, it's not gonna make anything here. Fog, you can play with that. Smoke, you can play with that also. I mean, I don't need to explain to you guys how it works. This is easy.
The cloud base is 300 meters and no less, but you can go in and edit the mission file to get it even lower.
Yeah, but I mean
that's a real challenge.
That's yeah, but that's from sea level also, and yeah, we're not going to go through this at this level. Yeah, there's plenty of things you can do by editing, but there's also plenty of opportunities to screw up the mission. So I guess we're just going to start with use the default value here. Okay, is it good on the weather? Any questions on the weather? Yes?
All good from me.
All right.
All good for me.
So we saw the triggers. We're not gonna go into mission goals. Yes. This part here. How does it call? Is it called battlefield commanders? Okay. So mission briefing. We talked about this. Whether we talked about this trigger, we've seen at least the basic. To set up what time is it? Okay, 1 hour. To set up the scripts. We're not going to go into this. We're going to go into this because that's only if you want, if you have some combined arm stuff, or if you want to be able to take control of your mission, or someone to take control of your mission, which is usually a good idea if you fear that something might go wrong. You might want to add at least one game master in your mission all the time, even if it's not, if the mission is working perfectly all right and there's no need to take over the mission manually. For example, if a group of enemy infantry or friendly infantry is going the wrong way, not the way you told them to go to, you can always go and take the game master slot. And if you have combined arms, you can ask them to go another way or to attack something else. Okay, so it's always a good idea to have at least one game master. If you want people to be able to jump into the mission and look at it, not flying it, you can add slots for observers, so they can jump and play with the F2 view and look at different things. So if you want to have observers, you can use that. Tactical commander and JTAC. It's all the gradient between being able to control everything. So the game master will see everything, including the enemy. Tactical commander and JTAC operator, they have only the vision of their own side. So if you're adding a tactical commander on the blue side, someone will be able to take the tactical commander role, but they will be able to see only the blue positions, not the red ones. The game master will see everything. So it's kind of more useful. I would say most of the time, Game Master, again, it's used to take over some aspect of the mission that might go wrong and correct that through combined arms. All right?
Do you need a Game Master for all the sides or just for one?
For one, Game Master, it doesn't matter if it's red or blue, because it sees everything. So it can plays on red, it can plays on blue. So there's no point really if having a Game Master. It can be blue or red. It doesn't matter. It matters for tactical commander and JTAC.
Okay, clear.
Okay. And now the neutrals, obviously. So that's thing. Another thing that you need to set up, and we haven't started the mission yet, which is crazy, but set mission options. I hope it's okay for you guys, but why don't I have this? Okay, I have this. Well, crash auto recovery, tunnel view. This is all the things you want to allow or forbid into your mission. I think the most important one is the F10 View Options. It's important because you wanna, if you want, for example, going the hardcore way and prevent anyone from using F10 to do the navigation, then you're gonna set up your F10 View Options to map only. All right, so no one will know where they are unless they have some way of navigating, but they won't be able to see anything on the F10 map but the F10 map. Then my aircraft, they will be obviously able to see only their own aircraft, but not the other ones. The fog of war is an option that will display every position, friendly or enemy, that is in sight of a given aircraft. So basically you'll see on the F10 view only things that you're able to see from outside. I've never used that. So for hides unexplored areas of the map in flight. So well, it's kind of self-explanatory, but if your AI units or your or human units are going into places, they're going to see something and it's going to show on the F10 map. Otherwise, it's not going to show. So I've never used that. What I'm using is map only if I want to be really nasty. My aircraft if I want to be nicer, or allies only. I'm rarely using all because that's kind of cheating in a way that you'll be able to see everything unless it's a training. So the training mission you have on the server too, obviously, I think I almost showed it all, but what I'm using all the times, mostly all the times, is allies only. And this way I can control, people will see their own helicopter, they will see the other helicopters, including the AI, and they will see the units, the blue units that, if we are on the blue side, obviously, they will see the blue units that I'm let them see. So there's a way, I'm going to show you that, there's a way to show, to have the allies only vision on the F10, but hide some of the units if you don't want them to see some of the units, okay? The blue ones. Labels, I hope none of you guys are using labels, because it's kind of cheating also. If you're not sure about the people flying on your mission, whether they're going to use label or not, you can force the labels to none. Well, this is kind of self-explanatory. Something that is interesting, easy communication. I'm usually forcing easy communication to off, because sometimes it creates problem with SRS. So I'm forcing everyone to not to use easy communication to make sure that there's no problem with SRS. Everything else is up to you guys. I mean, there's no real rules. The F10 map user marks is on by default. Now, if you want to, for some reason, you don't want anyone to use the marks, you know, the red circles, you can force that to false. But it's up to you. Civilian traffic, you have to be careful with that, because we don't have all the computers are not equal. So we have some people with not so powerful computer and other with super nice computers. If you have a really cool computer with a 3080 and latest of the greatest AMD, and you see, hey, I can fly civilian traffic high and I have 100 FPS, that might not be the case for someone with a smaller computer, a weaker computer. If you're forcing the traffic too high, it means that everyone in the mission will be flying with high in the civilian traffic, and that's going to suck for some of them, because they're going to have a very, very low FPS. So unless it's necessarily, I mean, it's necessary to the storyline, just don't force anything on the civilian traffic. The only time I'm forcing civilian traffic is, say, I don't want any traffic on the road. In that case, I'm doing that. But keep in mind that not everyone have a super nice computer for this. Birds, I never understand exactly how it works. Birds, I don't know. I haven't seen birds. I mean, I've seen birds in Normandy, but I don't know what it does. Like if you're setting M1000, I haven't seen a bunch of birds flying around, so I never understood how it works here. Battle damage assessment is a message whenever you're shooting down something. You got these windows popping up saying, hey, you killed kill whatever targets, and this is what the target is. So you can force that off and on or on, depending on what you want for your scenario.
I have a question.
Yes.
You checked the box easy communication. Is it on or off now?
So now it's off. So you see, if I'm not checking anything, this is the default value. So crash auto recovery is true. Okay, so for example, easy communication is false. So it's not using easy communication. Now you can override this in your own game. Like it's gonna allow, if you want to use the easy communication, because it's not set up, it's not forced into the mission, it will use whatever setup you have into your own DCS. But if you want, as a mission designer, you want to make sure that no one is using easy communication, then you have to force it here, enforce, okay? Here, above, and enforce easy communication to off. Battle damage assessment by default, if it's not specified, it's activated. If you want to avoid people, prevent people from using battle damage assessment, you're going to force it off. All right? Okay. Labels, anything? No, everything else is easy to understand. Okay, save. Changing coalition, so that's a new thing that's gonna save your life. If you forgot to add a country, now you can reshuffle the coalition on red and blue, and that's great, because I had so many missions that screwed up because I realized at the end of the mission I needed something and I had to redo the mission from scratch. So that's great, they added that, but it's really recent. Okay, flying the mission, we're not going to do that. We're going to add units. And then once we're adding units, we're gonna look at some things about the trigger here. Okay, adding units. So let's say you wanna start from an airport. The airport basically can be neutral, blue or red. If you're having an aircraft landing on a blue aircraft landing on a red airport, the aircraft won't be able to refuel and rearm. So that's a big thing. If you have a red airport and the blue aircraft are destroying every red unit on the airport and land on the airport will become blue automatically. Okay, and then we'll be able to rearm, refuel. If you're setting up an airport as red and then you're adding a blue aircraft and you're saving that, oops, shit, delete. A blue aircraft, I'm gonna put it on the ground and save. The moment it doesn't show, but the moment you are loading the mission, the aircraft will turn blue anyway because there's nothing else here. Okay. If you have red units and if you have more red units than blue units on the aircraft, the airport is staying on the side where the most units are. So if you have a lot of red units and only a couple of blue units on the same airport, the airport will stay red. Okay. So to start with, to make sure it's working, either you can let the airport neutral, so it's gonna refuel rearm for everyone, or you want to set the airport blue, for example, to make sure that the refuel rearm is available at the airport. Is it clear so far? We're gonna see how FARP is working then, okay? But the airport is the easiest way. How we gonna do the airport first? Yeah, we're gonna do the airport. Okay, because we talk about the airport. Okay, so you want to add units. You want to add helicopters. So you have a blue airport, and you want to make sure you want to have slots for the guys flying this mission at this airport. So you're gonna add helicopters. You're gonna click on the helicopter icon here on the left, and then you have a bunch of things here. That's really scary. It gives the name by default, the type. So it's kind of the first part is kind of easy. So once you click on the helicopter, you can place your helicopter. Okay, so I'm gonna add a Huey. Okay, and I want this Huey to be flyable. So rookie, train, veteran, ace, random means it's gonna be an AI helicopter. Client means it's going to be a flyable helicopter by human. All right. So if you're setting up a helicopter and then when you launching the mission to try it, you don't see the helicopter listed, it means that you probably set it up as an AI. If you're setting up the helicopter as an AI, usually you'll see it starting up on its own and flying away, even if it doesn't have any flight plan. It's kind of weird. I mean, if you see the helicopter starting up on their own, you know that you set it up as an AI, not as a client. So whenever you want to have a flyable helicopter, remember you have to set it up as client. You want this helicopter. So once you replace a helicopter here, you have different options of where you want it to be. By default, the helicopter is set as a turning point. It means that it's flying already. Okay. It's flying and it's flying. Oops, it's flying at 500 meters. You don't really want the helicopter to be flying, even if it's a flyable one, because when you're jumping into the helicopter and the helicopter is set as turning point, the helicopter will be already in flight for the pilot. So it's kind of weird. So you want to be either taking from parking, so takeoff from runway. Obviously, it's going to be on the runway. Takeoff from ramp. It's going to be on one of those parking spots here. Okay, so there's numbers. You can change the numbers if you want this to be on parking 10. Okay, you go here and you choose 10 and it moves at 10 here. All right. When you set the helicopter as takeoff from ramp, it's going to be cold. Takeoff from parking hot, it's going to be hot. Okay, it's going to be already startup. All right. So depends on what you want to do. What I'm doing usually is the helicopters at the start of the mission are all cold because I like people to start from cold and dark. But the respawn helicopters, I'm usually set them up as hot, so you don't have to force people from doing again the startup procedure when they just want to respawn and join the engagement area. It's just for the fun of it. When you're doing takeoff from ramp, the helicopter will be set. It doesn't matter how it looks like it looks like it's facing south. As takeoff from ramp, it will always face the same direction towards the. Actually, it's going to show takeoff from ramp. I cannot set it up. Takeoff from ramp. Okay. It's going to be always in the same direction. Now, if you setting up as takeoff from ground, okay, now you can have this helicopter in any position. Oh shit. Edit. Okay, any position, so you can set the helicopter anywhere you want. It doesn't need to be on the airport. You can set the helicopter in the middle of nowhere. Keep in mind that if you're setting up the helicopter, you can set it up on a mountain. Where is it? Where's my helicopter? Here. Okay, at least it's preventing, as you see, it's preventing the helicopter from spawning anywhere you want. So if the slope is too big. If the slope is too big for this helicopter, then the mission editor will prevent you from placing this helicopter as takeoff from ground. Because obviously the moment you jump into the helicopter and you have a 40 or 50 degree slope, well, there's nothing you can do, you're just going to die. Okay, so I'm going to put it back to my airport here. Same then takeoff from ramp. So you have takeoff from ramp, takeoff from parking hot for a fixed position. If you want to take off from ground, you have the same option. Take off from ground, it's going to be cold and dark. Take off from ground hot, obviously it's going to be hot. Are you good with that so far, guys?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything that is too obvious, or should I go faster than that, or the things you didn't know? That's good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yes, so helicopter. Okay, so now you have an helicopter. An important thing to understand is the difference between the group name and the pilot name. The pilot name is going to be a unit, so that's going to be the name of the helicopter itself. The group name, so the name here, helicopter group, is going to be the name of the group. When you are doing multiplayer mission, ideally, it used to be a big deal, it's less a big deal, but still you want to do that for CTLD. CTLD and CSAR will not work if you have several helicopters unit inside the same group. So say if you have, I can add helicopters here, okay? I can make a group of 4 helicopters within this group. I'm going to call it BSD1, for example, okay? BSD1 group will have a flight of 4 helicopters, and each helicopters are named rotary 1-3. You can change that, okay? 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. Okay. CTLD doesn't know how to handle. So when it's if it's a human flying a helicopter, you need to have 1 helicopter per group. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay. So every time you're using CTLD and CSAR, you need to have only 1 helicopter. If you want to add another slot, so I'm going to remove 1. If you want to have another helicopter controlled by human, you need to do the same thing. Click here and add another helicopter, setting up to take off from ramp, okay, and wherever you want. And that's it. And you're going to call it BSD2, for example, and that's going to be another slot set up as client. Okay, and then you have another slot. Shit. Is it clear?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So always for human control helicopters, 1 group, 1 helicopter per group, not more. Okay, as you see, there's different tabs here. What time is it? Wow. Different tabs here. Well, it's kind of self-explanatory anyway. You have payload, So payloads are different depending on the task you're giving to the helicopters. In that case, for a Huey, if you were setting up as a ground attack, well, it's not a good example. I'm going to use another helicopter here. I'm going to set it up as K50, for example. K50, here you go, boom. Okay, I've got a K50 in group BSD2. If you want to set up the payload here, payloads can vary depending on the task. So nothing, okay, bad example again, because it's the same task. Okay, it depends on the helicopter. Some helicopters, they have different payloads depending on the task. It's true also for the fixed wing aircraft. Depending on the task they're given, they will have a different choice of payload. But it's a bad example here. Okay, transport. Okay, K50 cannot do transport. So if you're setting up a K50 task as transport, it will switch to CH47. So bad example here. Let's go back to CAS and K50. All right. So the payload, you can choose a predefined payload. But if you want to change, if you want a specific payload for the mission, you can simply edit that. Okay, so you right click and you choose the payload here. All right. Keep an eye on the I don't know, you don't see my cursor here, but on the right there's internal fuel, fuel weight, empty, weapons, and so on. If you're setting up, for example, a Gazelle, okay, and you're choosing the payload, you see that if you're putting the biggest payload, so 403, the filter, the IR deflector, and all this kind of thing, and you're putting 100% on the fuel, you see that we are a little bit overweight here, 107%. So it's true also for your Huey. Be careful with what you do on the Huey. So you have to reduce the fuel. If you absolutely want this type of payload, you have to reduce the fuel until you get to something reasonable here. You know, 100%, 101%, that's still fine. Let's play with the Huey here. Same here. If I want to do ground attack, and I'm putting a shitload of things here, already is 94%. Say you want this guy to have this kind of payload, but also to transport troops. CTLD adds 100 kilograms per infantry guy. Remember that's going to be really, really heavy. If you have your helicopter taking off from high and from hot weather, it won't be able to take off here. So either you so the fun thing is you can let that as it is and do it as a test. So you see a lot of guys taking off, not even looking at the weight, and they will crash into the nearby obstacle. Or you can be nicer and make sure that they will be okay on the fuel, and make sure they don't have too much fuel. They're not overweight, so reducing the payload, maybe removing the rockets. Okay, and so they have a little bit more payload here, and leave the 100%. You can play with whatever you want, but keep that in mind. Also, you can force the skin. Rope length. Leave it at 15 meters by default. Try 5. It's not great. It creates all kind of shit here. So leave it by default 15-20 meters. The skin, you can force the skin, but if a pilot wants to have another skin, he'll always be able to do so. You can change the skin. But if you want everyone to have the same skin within a flight, then you can have the skin set up here.
You can change it in the server.
Yeah, you can force the server not to allow a skin change. I'm not sure I did that for 2, but anyway. Okay, triggered when it's going to be a complicated trigger, so we're not going to see that. Preset channel. So if you're doing your comp plan, why do I have only one helicopter? Here. If you comp plan and you have to make sure that the frequency are matching your comp plan. Sometime if you want to have a K50 talking to a Gazelle, sometimes the presets for the Fox mic radios are not the same. So you want mine to give. Let's see if we have where do we have a K50? We're gonna add a K50 here. K50, where is it? Here, taking off from ramp. Right, if I'm looking at the I need to set it up as client. Okay, client. And if I'm looking at the presets for the K50, you see this is all the preset channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 for the Fox mic. You see that some frequency, if you want, for example, the Gazelle to talk to the K50 on 55.5, the Gazelle might not have actually this preset, so it won't be able to tune to 55.5. Okay. What else? So I talk about this. This we don't need to. This we not need to. No point. No point. No point. And this we talked about. Okay. What else? Yes, something. It's true for everything. For units, AI units, human units, ground units, any units. Say if you set up, you remember the options here where you force, for example, the F10 view being, for example, showing only the allies. You can force a unit to disappear. Not being shown on the F10 view. So say for example I want to show every blue units on the F10 view, so I'm going to show F10 view units allies only, but I don't want you to see a ground unit that is on the blue side. For example, I'm going to add a ground unit. It's going to be what I'm going to use a 25 here. I'm going to place it here. It's not going to be easy to see. I'm going to place it here, but I don't want you to see it on the F10 view. I'm going to click hidden on map, okay? And you won't be able to see it. All right? So it's not visible on the mission editor, but it's not going to be visible on the F10 view also. So that's kind of interesting. For example, if you want to have a FOB, but you don't want the FOB to show on the F10 view because you want the FOB to be found. And you don't want people to use the F10 view to find the FOB, then you can hide everything, FOB, vehicles, whatever you put on the FOB by using this hidden on map thing here. Now, if you're working on the mission editor and you click on hidden on map and it disappears and you forgot where it is, you can go on here, view unit list, okay? I'm gonna see view unit list. And click on show hidden units, and all the units that you hid we're going to show on the mission editor. It doesn't mean they will be shown on the F10, so they remain, all the hidden units will remain hidden, but that allows you to at least see all the units in the mission editor, including the hidden one. Okay? And there's a bunch of filters here. Any questions so far? Good? Or is it too much?
No, it's good.
Okay.
No, yeah, it's good.
All right. Okay, so we talk about placing helicopters. So remember, the most important thing, put an helicopter as client. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to fly it. You can explore the rest here. You want to do a FOB. So FOB, it's a little bit different, and there's a few things you have to know. So let's add a FOB. FOB is part of the objects here, static object. You're going into static object, and you're choosing heliports. Okay, and in heliports, because you have all the BSD mods, you have a bunch of heliports here. They're all working the same. Some of them look better than the others. Let's use the horrible basic FOB from ED. This horrible one here. You want to place a FOB when you're clicking on the position. So here I'm ready to place my static object FOB. I cannot place a static object everywhere I want because the software, the mission editor, will look at an area that is flat enough. Okay, so if it's not flat enough, you won't be able to place it wherever you want. So that was a bad example because I could place it wherever I want. So let's see if I get something worse than that. I'm going back to altitude. See if I'm going here. Can I place a fob here? Not quite here. Can I place a fob here? No, terrain is too steep. Okay, so the editor will not let you drop a fob anywhere you want. There's a trick though, is once you drop the fob somewhere that the editor is allowing you, and you really want to have it on a super stupidly steep terrain, you can click on the fob and drag it wherever you want. Okay, so the mission editor won't let me to have a fob because here is too steep, but once I have the fob placed, I can drag it and drop it wherever I want, and it's going to be on a steep terrain. It's going to look stupid because part of the fob will be just floating above the terrain because the fob is not able to cope with a very steep terrain. The shape of the fob does not cope with a steep terrain, but it doesn't really matter because you still be able to spawn on this fob, and so it's going to look horrible. But if you're desperate to have a fob on a very steep terrain, I mean this kind of fob, you can do this. Okay, you can change the type of fob. So if you want to have steep terrain fob, there's some really good ones from heliports. Like Drummer gave us some really nice one, the sloped, right? For example. You have to make sure that the slope is all right. So the H is pointing here, so I need to orient my fob this way. Okay, so it's about in the slope of the terrain. Okay, so you can use the sloped fob on the sloped terrain. Again, the mission editor won't let you put a fob here. They will let you put a fob on the flat terrain, and then you have to drag the fob on the slope terrain. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the standard one, and we want to make the fob refuelable and rearm refuel. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Doesn't matter. Gonna put a fob here in the middle of the wood. So you have different view here. Satellites give you an idea of how it's gonna look like in game. But it doesn't give you any indication of how flat it is. Okay, map is useless. It doesn't really reflect what's on the in the real world, in the DCS world. So altitude is the one I'm using the most, and then eventually satellite. It's nice in Syria, for example. You can see where the trees are and stuff. You don't see the trees much here. Sometimes there are trees that you don't see, so you can use that. Now you want to place, so it's working just like now you have this the fob. You can see you can give a name to the fob. You can orient the fob the way you want. Call sign frequency doesn't really matter. I mean, you can set up a frequency, but it's just going to be an automatic reply on the frequency you set up, so it doesn't matter. So you can leave it as it is. Supplies, okay, so that's a little bit higher level, but you can restrict what the fob can supply to your units, to your helicopters, or whatever is landing here. So by default, the fob can supply anything in any quantities. Okay. So for example, equipment. This fob is full of every known to man weapons. You can say I don't want to have unlimited supply of weapons, and I don't want the K50, for example, to have Vickers as much as they want, to KH25 as much as they want. You can set that up to 0, and when the when the K50 is landing on this fob and is asking for a refuel and rearm with KH25, they would say the refuel might be working, but they would say they have no KH25 left for him. Okay. Usually you don't bother for your first mission. You just put everything to unlimited, and it doesn't matter. Same for the liquids. It's basically you can refuel and rearm and refuel as much as you want. Now if you want to make it a little bit harder, you can restrict the amount of fuel is available on the fob. So that's kind of fun, because the first one they got the fuel, and the guy who's coming late, well, no fuel for him. but usually you will leave everything as unlimited. Okay, we're gonna place a helicopter. So as usual, I'm choosing whatever. I'm going to use this one. It's going to be UH. I'm going to set it up as not turning point because it's going to be just flying over. I want to set it up takeoff from the ramp. Okay. So the weird thing here is when you're saying take off from ramp, you see the helicopter position on the center of the FOP. But then as you're adding more helicopter up to 4, when you're spawning, they will be spawning on the different platform here. Now, if you want to have a specific helicopter taking off from a specific position, you're just doing it take off from ground. Okay, oops, edit. And you positioning a helicopter the way you want in the direction you want. Okay, so if you don't want to bother, you just drop 4 helicopters on the FOP and you set them up as takeoff from ramp or takeoff from parking hot. If you want to have a nicer setup and you want to make sure that, I don't know, Huey 1 and 2 are on this platform and Huey 3 and 4 are on this platform, you're using takeoff from ground. All right, once you have this, so make sure that helicopter is set as client, otherwise it's just going to be an AI one. You want to make this FOP refuelable and rearmable. So if you're leaving this FOP as it is, it's not going to work. You're going to open the radio menu once you jump into this helicopter, ask for refuel rearm, and you won't get any reply. So you need to have a minimum of 3 pieces of equipment nearby in a radius of 150 meters around the FOP. So the helicopters on this FOP are able to rearm and refuel. If you want to know 150 meters, you're going to use a trigger zone. I'm using that just to measure. 150 meters, that's about this size, okay? So that's almost the size of that's actually the size of the FOP here, 150 meters radius. Okay, so you need to have vehicles around here. The vehicles you need to have to make the FOP refuelable and rearmable, I don't know if it's actually correct, are as follows. It can be units or static vehicles, it doesn't matter. Okay, you can have both. If you choose to have units, you need to have first a transport M818. Okay, somewhere here. So within this radius. Okay, the transport will allow the logistic part. So I think that's rearming. To be able to refuel, you need to add a second vehicle, which is that the tanker? Yes, that's the tanker. Yeah, that's a tanker. The tanker M978. Okay. And finally, a third vehicle is required for the radio communications. So I'm adding a third vehicle here. And that's the is that this one? Yes, that's this one. APC M1025 HMMW. All right. If you have those 3 vehicles, they just need to be there. You can use units, you can use static. This needs to be exactly those 3 vehicles. For the blue coalition. For red coalition, it's different vehicles, but for blue coalition, it needs to be these 3 vehicles. Then you'll be able to contact the ground, ask for refuel, and ask for rearm. If you want to have only refuel, then you can remove the M818. If you have to have only rearm, you can remove the M978. But you always need to have the M1025 for the radio communications within 150 meters. Yeah.
I made a mission some time ago, and I set the FARP to 0 fuel, and that meant that the helicopters didn't have any fuel either.
Yeah.
Is it same on the? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have so that's weird. Yes, if you have a fuel tanker, but you set the logistic of your FARP to 0 fuel, it's not gonna work. So the guy will say, yeah, copy. I think I don't know. He's gonna say copy for the refuel, but then he will be unable to provide any fuel because there's none on the fob. Okay, if you're not putting the vehicle, it will just go straight to enable. They won't be any copy or anything. You get the copy for the weapons. You're not gonna get the copy for the fuel. Okay, that's important. This is the way the fob works. Now there's I mean, it's going to be a detail, but some fobs from the mods doesn't require this. So there's a little trick. I'm going just to tell you the trick, but some guys who did the mods for the fobs, instead of defining the fobs as a fob, as a heliport, they define the fob as an oil platform. And if you remember the oil platform, where do we have an oil platform somewhere here? It's somewhere near Sochiadler. Yeah, this oil platform here, you can actually refuel rearm, but they don't have obviously any vehicles nearby. So there's a little trick. Some you have to try. I can't remember which ones are working, but some of the fobs does not require systematically those vehicles, and they still let you refuel and rearm. But in general, most of the cases, a fob defined as a heliport will need those vehicles to let the helicopters refuel and rearm.
If there were any red units nearby,
yeah,
was it a distance where they didn't supply anything?
So if the red units are getting too close, the heliport will switch to switch to the red side. So if there's enough red units getting close to the fob, the fob will consider to be captured, and it will switch to the red side, and then you'll be screwed, because as a red side, even if you can land on this fob, because all the red units nearby are maybe trucks, and they're not going to engage you, you won't be able to refuel rearm at all.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about threats. So is it clear? Is it easy enough for you guys? If you want to, the only thing you need to remember is really set that up as clients and put wherever you want those helicopters. Fob, important thing is put your helicopters where you want in takeoff from ground, or if you don't want to bother, just set them up at takeoff from ramp or takeoff from parking hot, and they will spawn. Don't put more than 4 helicopters. You can put more than 4 helicopters on the fob, but it means that if everyone is jumping at the same time on 5 helicopters on the fob of 4, most likely there's going to be 2 helicopters who will blow up because they will spawn on each other. Okay, just like the boats, the ships. You have to be careful not to have more helicopters than available slots. But I don't think we're going to talk about ships for the moment, because sometimes it's a little bit fucked up also. Let's talk about the units. Okay, so as you see, we're talking about there's units, and they are static objects. So the units are the active ones. They are the ones that are going to take the most FPS from the server and from your mission, because there's going to be the ones that will be looking for a target, and that will be engaging a target. Static, as the name suggests, is just for making things look nice. But they do have a side, so they do have a coalition side. So if you putting a red static unit nearby blue unit, although it's a static red unit, the blue unit, although it's a static object red, the blue units, the active one, will engage the red static object because it's red. Blue engage anything that is red, even if it's static unit. Even if you set up a static unit red as dumb as structure, as whatever, as a barrier, the blue units will engage this barrier because it's red. Okay? You can set it up as neutral if you want, then nobody will engage it, but the moment it's on the other side, on the wrong side, it will be destroyed. So let's talk about active units. How much time we have? Let's talk about active units on the ground. So we're not using that much fixed wing, and you guys know why, because I mean the moment they are fixed wing AI, situation will become really, really dangerous unless you have a couple of Mistral Gazelle around, and still. You can have AI helicopters. We have some really good people here. We can handle AI helicopters, Mi-24 and stuff, and shoot them down. So if you want to have AI helicopters, it's usually fine. Boats, we don't really need to talk about it, but ground units, this is where you want. So ground units, you can place them pretty much anywhere you want. There's no limitation as far as slopes and stuff. The only limitation is water. So if a unit cannot float, so we don't have an amphibious unit, they won't let you have this unit set in the water. So obviously a transport, you cannot place that on the water, but for example, a BMP, some of the BMP can float or can drive through water. Which one, by the way? This one? Yeah, this one. A BTR 80 can go through water. So you can place a BTR 80 on the water or on the ground. You can ask a BTR 80 to go through the water. So say it's on the ground, and I'm going to add a waypoint that goes here. It will just go and drive through the water. It will be slower on the water, but it will go through. If you're placing something that is not amphibious, it will have to go around. I don't know if a T55, I don't think T55 floats. No, it can't. You see, I'm trying to put my T55 on the water. It doesn't want to. All right. So if I'm doing this and I'm saying, okay, I'm asking my T55 to go from here to here, it will just go around. It will find a way to go around to reach the destination. All right. Okay. What else can I say about units? There's a lot of things to say. So you have a category. So again, a unit is defined by its group. So you can have one group with several units. Okay, I can put a bunch of tanks here, and it's part of the same group. I can give individual name to each unit, but that's not really super interesting, but you can do that. Skills, it's interesting. So skills, for example, they can be like godlike, god level skill, excellent, or average. By default, it's average. I mean, it's still average is pretty good. So I mean, you can set the skills for each unit. Again, you can set a skill per unit. It's not the skill of the group. It's a skill of a unit. So I can have the lead unit to be excellent, and have the one at the back being just average. All right, and that gives kind of a probability to hit when you're getting close to this. And I'm telling you, average is already pretty good. And you can see here the range. So that's always interesting to see the range of the skies. If you're using the measurement unit, you can see that a T55 will engage you at about 4 kilometers. All right, and then they will be moving here. So I gave them a waypoint. This is going to be off-road, okay, and you can set up the speed. So 20 is kind of slow. I mean, I'm usually using like 30, 35 because otherwise it's too slow at 20. You can have them driving faster on the road. Let's see a little bit having units placed on the road. So I'm going to take a T72 here. I'm trying to find a road. There's plenty. Okay, here's the road. No, that's not road. Here's the road. Okay, gonna have a T72. Maybe not too close for my units, but it doesn't matter. A T72 on the road. So right now, it's by default it's off road. I want it on the road. Up there. So if I want this T72 on the road, I'm going to set it up as on road. So my mission editor will stick the T72 on the road, on the closest road. And then when I'm giving him, so I'm going to add a waypoint here. I'm say, okay, I want you to go from here to this intersection here, automatically you see the mission editor computes a road, the route that follows the road, because I set this waypoint on road. If I set this waypoint off road, it would just go straight. Okay? On road, and usually vehicles are faster on roads than off road. Now I can ask my T72 to go like 50 kph. That's fine. Interesting thing here, you can have an ID at 50 kph. The route length is 4 kilometers, and this is the time the mission starts. So day 1 at 10 a.m. It will use 4 minutes and 15 seconds to reach the destination. Okay, so that's good to use this. I use this for coordination, to make sure that my units are not reaching the destination too early or too late compared to other units. So if I want some sort of coordination, I'm using this to make sure that I'm changing the speed accordingly to make sure that they arrive on time. Okay, something important. There's so many things to say, I can't believe. Now, say the way I set up this unit here, the moment you launch the mission, the unit will start to move automatically. Okay, it won't wait for anything. Now, say I want to have this unit move on my command. I want to make sure that this unit move only when I tell this unit to move. How do I do that? I can click on this unit and give this unit a late activation. Okay, I'm saying, okay, you're gonna be doing what I ask you to do, but you're gonna do it whenever I'm asking it to, whenever I'm asking you to do it, not when the mission starts. So this unit now is set as late activation. The unit knows that it needs to go to this waypoint following the road. One important thing here also, if I'm gonna add another waypoint here. Okay. When I set up waypoint 1 as, for example, 50 kilometers an hour, this is the speed that the unit will choose until it reaches waypoint 1. Now, if my latest waypoint, I set it up to 20 kilometers, then my unit will drive at 20 kph from waypoint 1 to the last waypoint. Okay, so the end waypoint, so the waypoint at the end of each segment, defines how the unit will behave, how fast it will drive, it will engage something, it will be keep the weapons hold, all this kind of thing. I will tell you that just after this. Okay, I want my unit to start whenever I tell her to do that. I'm setting up this unit as late activation. I can activate this unit using the trigger here. Okay, so my unit is late activated. The unit name is ground 41. So I'm gonna call the group unit deactivated or whatever, deactivated. And I'm going to call this unit T72. All right, skill excellent. Now I want to, for example, to have this unit start maybe 5 minutes after the mission start. Okay, so I'm going to go to triggers, add a trigger, and I'm going to call it trigger whatever, start T72. Okay, the condition for this unit, for this trigger, is if I want to make it start 5 minutes after the mission starts, I'm going to use time more again. 5 minutes is 300 seconds. 300 seconds. After 300 seconds, I want to activate a group activate, and how did I call that? Unit deact. Okay, that's all. So the units will not show on the mission, or not show during the mission until 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, it will appear on the ground and start to perform its task, which is going from this point to waypoint 1 and then to the latest waypoint. Okay, so it will drive at 50 kph to waypoint 1, and then it would drive at 20 kph to the last waypoint. Only 5 minutes after the mission starts. All right. Let's say that I want this unit to be visible at the beginning of the mission, but not doing anything. Then I'm going to check visible before activation. So you'll be able to see the unit. You'll even be able to shoot the unit down, but the unit will do nothing. It will just be a static object. It's only after 5 minutes that the unit will activate, start to move, and will do whatever I tell it to do. So in that case, it's gonna move to waypoint 1 and the last waypoint. Now, one thing here, you can define the behavior of the units regarding the way it moves, where it moves, and how fast it moves. If you're going into the advanced, you can add a bunch of things, but it's going to be a little bit complicated. Just one thing maybe important here. In the advanced, you can set up the option like ROE, rules of engagement. Okay, so if you set up the rules of engagement for this waypoint here, and you say I want you to be weapon hold until you reach waypoint 1. Okay, so that's not a good. I was not on the good one. So I want you to be weapons hold until you reach waypoint 1, and then you can be weapons 3 ROE when you are driving from waypoint 1 to the last waypoint. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. So after 5 minutes, this thing will start to move, but then again it won't engage anything or anyone until it reaches 1. Starting from 1, it will become dangerous because it's weapon 3, and everything it sees, it will be engaging it. Is it okay so far, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
You knew
Yeah.
you knew that, or I'm just because if everyone knows that, I'm just again can skip it and goes to something more useful maybe. I don't know. Is that okay? Any question? On units? Happy, you have questions? No?
Yeah, I have a question, but you did. I had my mic. Sorry.
Okay.
I have some mic trouble. When I see the map, I only see the symbols. How do I see the units?
What do you mean? What do you see? Where do you see your units?
When I'm in the map, I only see symbolic
Oh yeah.
symbols next
so-
to units.
It's because by default it shows that. It shows this kind of units. So if you want to see the models, you have to click on the show models here at the bottom, the little tank icon, and it will show the tank. I will show the whatever model. Okay.
Okay. thank you.
That's really a game changer in a way, because like if we want to place units or static objects accurately, we didn't have this before, so it was super hard to make a nice looking FOP, because you have to guess by launching the mission and moving the object again until you get the right position for each object, because you could see only the symbols. You couldn't see the model. Now by activating this, you can see the model. Another thing important here, historical list of units. If you are setting up if you activating this and you're setting the time in 1951 or 1944 in this here, in this, if you're setting the date during the Second World War, for example, you won't be able to see units from the 1980s, for example. Okay, you won't be able to place Tunguskas in a 1944 mission. Well, usually it's not a big deal, but make sure it's deactivated just in case. Okay, don't use this option, historical list of unit, but you can activate show models, because it just make things super easy here. Okay, what else can I say? What time is it? It's almost 2. Do you guys want to continue, or you have enough for this time? Yes.
I have no problem with more, but
Yeah, I'm happy to continue.
Okay. Okay. All right. I mean, if you need to jump out, no problem. I mean, we've been here 2 hours.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say I'm gonna have to jump out, but you're recording this, right?
Yes. 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 So you can
Okay.
see.
Okay, and I'll catch the other half later.
right.
But, I gotta bounce. Take care, guys.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah,
Gidget.
I gotta
Bye bye.
leave. Thanks a lot, Bad.
Thanks, Beck.
Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. What else can we see? Any specific things you wanna see, guys, or you have an idea and you don't know how to do that?
Yeah, I have a question. With regards to the routes for the units, can you have it stop on a waypoint until there is another trigger that makes it move to the next waypoint?
Yes. Okay. So what you're gonna do? That's a good example. Okay, you want the tank. Oops. Shit. There. You want this tank to stop when it reaches waypoint and wait for something, I don't know, time or whatever you can think of to resume to the next waypoint, right?
Yeah, just say, for example, it was a soft target and there was armor at that crossroad, so it was waiting at waypoint 1 for the armor to be destroyed.
All right. Okay, so that's a good example. For this, what you can use a trigger zone. So here's how it works. Trigger zone is something that looks like this, that can be any size. So it can be 150 kilometers wide, or it can be 50 meters radius. It doesn't matter. And you can place it on waypoint 1. So say I'm using or even, I don't know, 20 meters, to a really small one, okay? And you can give whatever name you want. So let's say I'm gonna call this trigger zone stop. Okay, you can give a color if you want, doesn't matter. White, because it's easier to see. All right. Now you have to go into the trigger here. So what are you gonna do? You want to do a once. So you want this thing to stop when it reach this place here. Okay, when it reach stop. So I'm gonna go here. And I'm going to do stop T72. I'm going to call it top T72. Conditions. I'm going to use group in zone, or part of group in zone. Part of group in zone. And the group is going to be this one, units deact. I call it, you remember I call this unit, I'm going to call it, rename it, because it's T72 deactivated. All right, I'm going to go back here. I have to start again. T72 stop. So it's going to stop when part of the group, in that case the group is only one unit, okay? So part of the group in zone stop. No, that's T72 is in stop, okay? So when T72 deact, so this one, is into the zone stop, then my action will be, for example, you can group AI off for T72. If you're doing group AI off, the thing will just stop doing what you've been programmed it to do. Okay, it will just stop. There's another option also. You can do also. Where is it? Group stop. It's kind of the same thing actually for in that case. Okay, group AI off, it will deactivate everything, so it will stop engaging, for example. So if you set it up as weapon 3 and you do group AI off, it will stop engaging, and it will stop driving also. It will stop moving forward. If you're doing group stop, the T72 will just stop moving forward, or moving according to the route you gave it to it. Okay. So
yeah, but it would still engage.
Yeah, it will still engage, okay, but it's just stop. It's just going to stop following up the road. So that's kind of a subset of group AI off. Group AI, if you're doing group AI off, this thing is just transforming itself into a static object, just a stupid static object. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to move. It's not going to shoot you. If you're doing group stop, it's just going to stop moving, but it keeps shooting at you. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So what we have done so far is when this T72 reach this trigger zone here, it will stop. Now, when do you want it to resume? Why do you want it to resume?
So when the area ahead was, I know how to do it. I didn't know how to stop it. I think I know how to start it.
All right.
Yeah, so it was if that was a soft vehicle and there was an enemy on those crossroads and
all right, let's assume that
Reaper took him out, then how would we start it? But I think I know how to do that.
All right, let's do it for the sake of it. Okay, we're just going to define another trigger zone of, I don't know, 100 meters wide, and there's going to be a bunch of units here, a blue unit in that case. Okay, so because this guy is red, so we're going to set up some blue units from USA. What are we going to do? Abrams. Okay, and we're going to put a bunch of Abrams here. They're not going to move, but they are active units, so they're going to engage for sure. Okay, we can put 2 or 3, let's say 4 Abrams. Let's say 4 Abrams. Okay, there's 4 Abrams here, and you don't want the T-72 to keep moving towards these 4 Abrams unless those 4 tanks are killed. So we place those Abrams. We're going to call them A1s. Okay. Now we're going into this, and we're going to do an action once. Go if I don't know, M1 killed, for example, doesn't matter. Okay. Now this action will trigger if shit, I forgot the name of the zone. Trigger zone 2. Let's call it M1 zone, so I can remember. Okay, so we're gonna call it T72 go. Okay, so we have T72 stop, so it stops when it reaches the trigger zone 1 on the. It doesn't need to be on a waypoint, and you can put the trigger zone as long as it drives through the trigger zone. It will work. It doesn't need to be on a waypoint. But let's say T72 go. The condition will be. What way can we use? Group dead. We can use group dead. So group dead. Abrams. So if the M1 Abrams group is dead, so the 4 of them, then group resume, and that's going to be T72. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So you can have a little bit of, I mean, it can be more powerful than that. You can use group dead. Group dead means 100% of this group that there's nothing left here. Now maybe you want to allow the tank to move if there's only 1 Abrams left, because it's more doable. So group, you're gonna use it group alive less than, and that's gonna be a percentage. So we have 4 Abrams. So let's say if we have less than 25% of the group alive, which means you probably have only 1 tank, M1 tanks alive, then you can resume and go ahead to the next waypoint. Okay.
You can use flags as well, right?
Flags, yeah, important. Flags is good. Yes, so flags is good because flags is a way to communicate between different actions. Let's try to come up with an idea here. Okay, that's a different way of using it. Let's use a different way, but we're gonna use the same thing, but in a different way. It's just making things flags is super useful, but it might not be the most obvious way of using flags on this case. But let's say we want this T-72 tank go when group alive is only 1 tank left. Okay, so this we're gonna call. Let's start from scratch. No, so we want to inform the trigger that only one tank is alive in this zone. So we're going to call this one tank alive, one M1 alive. And we're going to use group alive of M1 Abrams less than 25%. Okay, there's only one Abrams left here. Then I'm going to use a flag. So flag can be any numbers. So when a flag is 0, it's false, and when the flag is more than 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, it's true. So why does the flag have more than two values? Because you can use flags to count objects, also to count something. Okay. You can increment the flag, or you can increase the flag or decrease the flag. So that's we're going to see that. But let's say we're going to use a flag here, and we're going to use flag on, and we're going to use flag 1, for example. You can have almost as many flags as you want. You can give a number that's going to be the number of the flag, going to be the name of the flag. Okay. So when there's only one Abrams left in this area, when M1 Abrams is alive is less than 25, then I'm telling everyone else by using my flag that there's only one Abrams left. Now, if I want to tell this to my T72, and I say, okay, when you get this message from the flag 1, then you need to go ahead.
Sorry, on the M1 alive, the group alive less than 25, does that not need to be 26? Because if it's less than,
you're right.
Full tanks is going to be 25. It's going to stop at 25, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're right. You can put 26. You can put 30. Like you can put something less than 50%. Okay. You're right. Once the third tank, when the third tank is destroyed, basically. So you are at 75. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you can put more. Yeah, you can 26, 30%. It's still gonna work. It's a good thing. If you have 10, a group of 10 or a group of 100, it's important. if you have a group of 100 units, then you want to be exact on the number. But when you have only 4 units, yeah, it can be anything about 25 and.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, when it says group alive less than 25%, well, 1 is 25%. So would the less than trigger on an exact percent? Yeah. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it will. It triggers on the exact number.
Okay.
Yeah, it triggers on the exact number. Yeah.
Okay, that's why it was just the fact that obviously 25 of 100% of 4 is 25, and
yeah.
But the trigger says less than, so I thought, well, it needs to be 26 because.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing. You might want to test that in case if you're putting 25 and it turns out nothing happens when the 3 tanks are destroyed. Maybe you want to put 26. You probably need to try that. That's a good point. Okay, so I just sent a message to everyone here that my flag on, and I know flag 1 means that there's only 1 tank left. So I'm going to tell my T72 that if flag is true or flag equals, so you can say flag is true or flag equal 1. So flag 1 is true. Then I can do group resume T72. All right. Is it easy enough?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so I told you the flags, they can have a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For example, you can ask what you can do. You can count that. So, for example, you can create a trigger that will. Okay, that's a good example. Yeah, let's do that. Let's create a trigger that counts. What we're gonna do. That counts the number of tanks that is in a given area, for example. Okay. And then once the number of tanks that is in a given area is or helicopters reaching a given area is more than a number you choose, then you can trigger something. So for example, let's say we have 3 helicopters here, right? So I'm gonna create trigger here. I want at least, I want to count how many helicopters are in a given zone. Okay, so I'm going to counting in this trigger zone. Okay, and I have 3 helicopters. So how I'm going to do that? I'm doing this live. So that's where I'm going to introduce the this type of triggers. So once is doing the trigger only once. Repetitive means it's going to do the trigger every 1 second. So it's like you can choose where it stops, but by using this, basically this action, this trigger will work every second. Once it starts, it will run every second. That's not a good thing to do usually because there's a lot of things that can screw up. I almost never use repetitive action, but what I'm using all the time is switch action. So switch action, the way it works, it checks the conditions. So let's say counting here, counting helicopter. So let's say what is a condition? Was it my condition for this trigger to run? I'm going to say I want this trigger to run once when there's any helicopter entering my trigger zone. So let's say powder group in zone counting. We have BSD 1. Okay, or I'm going to clone this. BSD 2, or I'm going to clone this. The third group was, I think I didn't rename it, so it might be rotary 1. Let me see. Ah, shit, I forgot to. That's BSD 1, BSD 2, and I'm going to call it BSD 3. Okay. All right, so let's start again. Oops. So I'm going to do switch condition, counting helicopters. My condition will be part of group, for example, BSD1 is in counting, or part of group BSD2 is in trigger area counting, or BSD3 is in trigger area counting. Every time this condition, so it's a multiple condition, okay? If anytime there's at least 1 helicopter entering the zone, then I'm gonna increment. So I'm gonna do a flag increase. I'm gonna increase flag 1, for example, by 1. Okay. So the switch condition executes only when the conditions. So the switch condition trigger execute only when the conditions, the set of condition in the condition column is true, and then it stops. So you see it's different from repetitive. Repetitive, that whatever it keeps doing the same thing. Okay, every 1 second. So if you're doing a repetitive counting helicopters, if you're setting up as repetitive here, when any of this condition is true, so when the set of condition become true, then it will keep increasing the flag by 1 every second until the flag is going to whatever numbers, okay? And it will keep doing that, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you're doing a switch condition, it will do that only once. Okay, whenever 1 helicopter is entering the counting zone, then it increases the flag 1 by 1, and it stops. Okay? Now I want to do something when when a total of 3 helicopters enter the zone. So keep in mind that in this condition, there might not be 3 helicopters in the zone, but at least 1 helicopter entered the zone 3 times, or the 3 helicopters, each of them entered the zone 1 time. Okay? So I'm going to do, let's say what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, I'm going to tell my T-72 to move forward, for example, okay? When the 3 helicopters are enter the zone. So I'm going to say, counting helicopter flag increase 1. Now what I'm going to say, I'm going to use another flag because we're already using a flag 1 here, so I'm going to use flag 2. Okay, and for flag 2, I'm going to activate my T72. Okay, so when flag equals 3, flag 2 equals 3, then I'm going to activate my T72. Okay, for example. All right. So this trigger will activate only when flag 2 equals 3. And flag 2 equals 3 when at least these conditions are met once. Okay, so I'm going to have, for example, maybe BSD 1 helicopter will enter the counting zone. This trigger will trigger once and add 1 to flag 2. And maybe BSD 3 then will enter this zone. So this trigger will activate and increase flag 2 by 1. So flag 2 will be equal to 2. And maybe at some point BSD 1 will re-enter the zone because it get out and then it get back in. This trigger will activate again and flag 2 will equals to 3 now. When flag 2 equals to 3, then I ask this trigger to activate my T72. Is it okay, guys, or is it too complicated?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
No, that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
There's a bunch of things you can do. I don't know if I'm going to this because it's but it's super useful because you have only a or, you are only or in the conditions, but you want to do and also. So how do you end when you have only or? So this is the way. So for example, let me think about an example. I want this unit, for example. Say I want 3 helicopters in this area. I want to have 3 helicopters going through this area, but at least I want also that my unit ground 1. I'm gonna ask this unit to go to this area. Okay, I want to have my unit being into this area also before I increase my flag. So not only I want 3 helicopters to go into my counting area, but I want to increase my flag only when there's a helicopter entering this area and that my unit ground 1 is inside this area. So how I do that? I'm going to go back to this here. So this is how you do. So I want to increase my flag when, for example, BSD1 is into counting area, and with part of group in zone. That's going to be ground 1 into counting area. Okay. So this means that this condition will be true if BSD1 is into counting and ground 1 is into counting. That makes my condition true. Now I'm going to clone that and put that into every conditions here. Okay, so this condition becomes true when either BSD1 or BSD2 or BSD3 is in counting trigger zone, and at the same time my ground 1 unit is also into this zone. Okay, only then I can increase my flag by 1. Okay, so say for example this unit is only going through the zone, so at some point it will be into the zone and then at some point it will be outside the zone. Say if BSD1 is entering this area and the unit is not inside the zone, well, there's not going to be flag increase. If BSD2 is entering into the zone and by the time it's entering BSD2 entering the zone, my unit is actually inside the zone, then this condition will be true and it will increase the flag. For example, before maybe BSD3 is late, BSD3 is coming finally into the counting zone, but because it's so late, this unit is already outside the zone, then my condition is false and I'm not going to increase the flag. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the way you can do and or. Any other things you guys to do in terms of how you can do something, or you want to go through the different triggers here?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
How would you go about implementing a troop transport task?
Okay. So, oh yes, good question. Good question. All right. So that's CTLD stuff. Okay. We need to go into CTLD. Let me. Oops. Edit. Okay, I'm gonna share another screen. Where is the screen? Application. This one. All right, do you see this one?
Yep.
All right, so don't be afraid. That's my Notepad++, and I have the CTLD script here displayed. So you don't have to do anything in CTLD. You can leave the numbers as it is. If you feel a little bit more confident, you can customize this. If you're looking at line 31 here, user configuration, these are all the stuff you can modify. At some point there's another line where it says don't change anything here because that's a code, but there's a bunch of things you can modify. Let's go through things that you might want to change. The troop weight, for example, is that's the first numbers you can change. It's set to 100 kilograms. If you want to have something heavier per unit, per infantry, or lighter, you can change that, and it's in kilograms. Okay, if you have lighter. If you want to have more troops, or I mean less heavy troops, you can change that. I'm leaving you. If you really want to look at all the things you can do, there's comments everywhere, so it's telling exactly what it does. But you really don't need to do that if you don't want to. It's working by itself. Why I'm showing you that, you see you have max extracting distance, enable smoke when if you want to drop smoke, or if you don't want people to drop smoke, and there's a bunch of things you can do here. But it doesn't matter. What matters really here for you is the name of the guys that will be extracted or not, and that's coming here. Okay, so that's the predefined name of the groups that can be extractable. It's called extract 1, extract 2, extract 3, up until extract 25. If you need more than 25 groups to extract, you can just copy that, do your own CTLD version, okay, and add them, and say, okay, I want 26, 27, 28, okay. It's still gonna work. Usually I'm removing this, but anyway. Okay, if you want to give different names, you can change extract 1 to troops 1, for example, I don't know, okay, and you can have, but basically, if you don't want to change anything, you need to name your groups, the groups you want to extract to follow those names, okay. If you're calling a group, an infantry group, by anything else than the name listed here, starting from line 366, and CTLD will not know how to work with that, okay. Same thing, by the way, since we are here, for the logistic unit. The logistic unit, if you're flying the persistent campaign for Fargo, very often Fargo is using a C-130. The C-130 is where you need to be close to be able to load crates, for example. And for CTLD to know which unit can actually allow your helicopter to load crates, it needs to have a list of, it needs to know the list of possible units. Here you have all the possible units name, logistic 1, logistic 2, logistic 3, logistic 5. Something that is going to be confusing for you guys. This is called extractable groups, meaning that these are the names of the groups. This one is called CTLD logistic unit, so it's going to be the name of a unit. I'm going to show you the difference. Okay, so let's take it to extract 1. Okay, we got logistic 1, and we have pickup zone also. Pickup zone. So pickup zone, normally if you just want to do a troop extraction and drop off, you don't need any zones really, unless you want to restrain areas of the map where you can drop and pick up troops. Normally you don't need a pickup zone. So if you're not using any zone for picking up troops and dropping off troops, it means that you basically can pick up troops anywhere and drop off troops anywhere, which is usually what I'm using. Okay, so let's do a pickup here. I know that to be able to be picked up, my group needs to be named extract with a number up to 25 or 28 because I added some, doesn't matter. I'm going to create a group here. So group, and I'm going to call my group extract.
We're only looking at Notepad.
Sorry?
We're just looking at Notepad.
Oh shit. Forgot. Stop streaming. Go live. Okay, sorry. So we're starting up again. All right, so you remember my vehicle group. You remember that if I want to extract a group, it needs to be called extract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Unless you change something in the file. But if you think the file as it is, the way you loaded it here, then you need to use what is being defined, so extract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another important thing is if you're changing something into the script file, and you already saved your mission with this load do script file, for example, this one here. It's not going to be changed into the mission. So say you're working with this version of the file, the basic version of the file, and I say, oh, I need to change something into my file. So you're editing the file and you're changing, for example, you added more guys here because you want to use 28 groups instead of 25. You need to save the file and then you need to reload CTLD. So in that case, you open the same file and you click on the same name and you press OK, and then the file will update into the MIS file. Okay, it's not dynamic. So when you do script file open and you click OK, it will load the file as it was. But if you change the file afterwards, you need to do this do script file open again. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything. Is it okay? Do you understand that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a little trick because when I didn't know that, I became crazy because I kept changing things into my CTLD, and when I was running the mission, nothing changed. It was always the same thing. I had to understand that I had to reload the file every time. Okay, so I'm going to create a group, extract 1. Okay, so I'm going to create a group called, well, I already have extract 1. Or did I create a group extract 1 already? Where is it? Extract 1. Oh shit, I created a group already. Okay, so I'm going to start all over again. I don't want this. Okay. I'm going to create a group of guys, extract 1, and it's going to be infantry. And it's going to be the usual guys, so soldier 249. There's an M4 normally. Infantry M4. Okay, here. Okay. And we know that the Huey can take up to 8, so I'm going to put 8 guys here. Edit, and I'm going to put them here. Put them together. Okay, here's my guys. So keep in mind that when you're moving a group, you're moving the group together when you're clicking on the first unit. If you're clicking on the second unit, you're moving only this unit, okay? Or any unit that is not the first unit, you're moving only this unit. If you're clicking on the unit number 1, you're moving the entire group. Okay, that's very annoying because often you're placing units and then you want to move unit 1 somewhere else, and then suddenly it moves the entire group and it screws up all your positions. Okay, so I have my group 1, it's called extract 1. I can set it up here, and that's all. Okay, I've got extract 1 as long as it's called extract 1, and it's sitting within, I think the maximum distance is where is it? How far can you put the group? Heli weights, hover pickup, sling loads, extract max distance 500 meters. Okay, so that's also something you can change, by the way, but in the script. But the default script, any group with the right name, whether it's extract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, within 500 meters of the helicopter requiring it, will board. So the order of priority is the closest. So the closest group will board first into the helicopter. Okay, that's all you need. I mean, when you're going to go into your F10 menu, because you loaded CTLD, when you go into the F10 menu and you said troop transport, load troops, this one, because that's the only one for the moment and that's the closest one, will board your Huey. Now, and you can drop the troops the same way. So it will drop. You can drop the troops any way you want. Now, if you remember, depending on the helicopter, you can take more or less troops. I'm gonna show you the script again to show you where it is. Okay. Where it is? Where is it? 3.5. You guys can see my notepad?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, line 449, CTLD unit load limits. This is the default numbers. So a Mistral can load 2 guys, a minigun can load 1 guy, a Lima 2, a Mike 2, a Huey 8, MI 24, and you can use AI to do the same, by the way, but so 16 for the UH60 and 47 can load up 30 guys. What's interesting here is those numbers. You can change those numbers if you want. You can put some stupid numbers if you want to do your own CTLD version for the mission. You can allow the Mistral to load up like 20 guys if you want. Like, keep in mind 20 guys is going to be 2 tons on the Gazelle, so because the weight is simulated, it's not going to work. I mean, you're going to have 20 guys on board the Gazelle, but it won't be able to take off, but you can do that. Now, if you have a group of 24, for example, you have only one group of 24, so I can add more than that, okay? Doesn't matter where it is, actually, as long as it's within 500. As long as the unit 1, so the first of the group, is within 500 meters, then it's going to work. So I have a group of 15. Oops, sorry, I'm not sharing the screen. Okay, so here I added a bunch of guys here, and they're more than 8. So the beauty of the script is if you're asking to load troops and this is the only group available in this area, then only 8 of them will board and the remaining 7 guys will stay behind. Unless it's an MI8 calling for the group, in which case all the 15 guys will be on board, or even all the 24 guys, if this is a group of 24, will be on board. Okay, so CTLD manage this. If you have a big groups of 24 guys or more, if you have 24 guys, and you're gonna need a couple of Hueys to pick up those guys, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, CTLD manage this and they will split the group into how many subgroups they need. So in that case, three subgroups. It's gonna work also. Okay, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, you can put as many groups as you want because in CTLD by default you can have up to 25. If you want more than that, you can edit the name. As long as the group name is correct, extract 1 is going to work. And again, if you feel confident, you want to change CTLD to use a different name because you like your groups to be named something else, like troops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of extract, you can do that by editing the CTLD. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you set up the actual CTLD zone? Because is there a... Because at the minute, could you do CTLD anywhere on the map, or
Yeah, so because we haven't set up any, so the zone are defined by the trigger zone. Okay, when we talk about the zone, that's going to be a trigger zone. Okay, so pick up one, for example. So if you remember, no, you didn't remember because I didn't show it to you. If we have a set of predefined zone, the name at least. I'm going to share my screen, but I don't know if it's going to be easier to watch. Stop screaming. I think it's going to be harder actually. Okay, can you guys see both now?
Yes.
Is it readable? About? Yeah.
Yeah, almost.
All right, almost. Okay, if you're looking at CTLD, you have CTLD pickup zone here. And the name is pickup zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 ship, whatever. And there's a bunch of parameters here that you can set up. Whether it's the sides, the smoke color, well, you can set a bunch of things, and that's really once you're comfortable with the script, you can play with that. But if it's the first time for you CTLD, you probably shouldn't do that. But yes, you can define pickup zones and drop-off zones here, and they need to have those names: drop-off zone 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, pickup zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Now, if you're not using any of those zones names, so the zone, when I'm seeing a zone, I'm using a trigger zone here. Okay, if I'm defining pickup zone 1, you see, by the way, it's pickup zone 1, so I need to use the same name exactly. Okay, then I'll be able, the guys will be able, normally the guys will be able to pick up units only in this zone. Okay, and then you want to limit the drop off to only one area, so you're going to call drop zone 1, and you're going to put another trigger zone here, and you're going to call it drop zone 1, and it means normally that you'll be able to pick up guys only if you are within this zone, and you'll be able to drop off guys only if you are within this zone. Now, I think Fargo changed a little bit of this in the logic, and I don't think it matters anymore. As long as there are groups nearby, you can pick them up if you ask to, and drop them off anywhere you want. CTLD initially was restricting this to only pickup zone and drop-off zone, so you couldn't do anything else outside those zones. Now, even if you are defining those zones, I think it doesn't matter anymore, because Fargo changed that to make it work anywhere. The only time when it matters is for the logistic. Okay, so stay with me, guys. The logistic is working a little bit differently. First, you need to be in a pickup zone to pick up logistic. So, say I want my guys to be able to load up crates, or I think group of guys. Like, I think you need also this, but I want my Huey to be able to load up crates. I'm gonna need to have a logistic unit, and a pickup zone. And the pickup zone must be into the logistic unit must be inside the pickup zone. So logistic unit, if you remember, where is it? Logistic unit must bear this name: logistic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or ammo 1, 2, 3, blah blah blah. I'm going to use the same thing that what Fargo is using. I'm going to use a C-130. Okay, then I'm going to call, and I want you to be slightly different from the troops. It's the name of the unit. It's not the name of the group. Actually, you know what I'm going to use? And I'm going to use a static, and I'm going to call my static logistic 1, and it's going to be a plane, and it's going to be a C-130, and I'm going to put my C-130 here. All right. And this C-130 gonna be called, shit, it changed my name. logistic 1. Okay, it's called logistic 1, and only aircraft within the pickup zone. So I'm going to make a smaller pickup zone, maybe 50 meters. No, 100 meters. Okay. Pickup zone. So pickup zone 1. So to be able to pick up crates with CTLD, you need to have a unit which name is logistic 1. So if you're using a static, you're putting this name here. If you're using a dynamic, dynamic. Where is it? C130. So here, Del. I'm gonna put it here and take off from ramp. Well, you wouldn't want to use that because it's gonna actually take off, so that's a problem. But say anyway, the unit name must be logistic. The way you naming it should be here. Okay. Like in that case, I cannot use two units with the same name, okay? Because I already have logistic 1 here, so I cannot name my active unit logistic 1 also, okay? But when you're using a dynamics or not a static object, a real unit, this is a group name. Name is group name. Unit name is logistic 1. Should be logistic 1, okay? Whereas when you're using the CTLD for pickup troops, extract 1 must be the group name, not the unit name. You don't have to name this guy, this specific guy, extract 1. It doesn't. The CTLD will not care. It will care only about the name of the group, and it will extract the group or part of the group called extract 1. For the logistic, it needs to be the name of the unit, not of the group. So in this case, this guy is called IRL 1 for the group. It doesn't matter if CTLD is interested only in the name of the pilot. That's the name of the unit, and it needs to be logistic 1. As you see, because I have two logistic 1, the mission editor rename logistic 1 for this one into logistic 1.1. Okay? So that's why I'm using a static, because the static, I know the static will not take off when I don't want to. It will just stay there, and it's good enough for what we want to do. That is making sure that it's a logistic unit that will allow you to load up crates, for example, as long as you are within this pick zone 1. It's very important.
And it must.
Yeah.
A question. It must be an AI. It can't be human.
No. This thing. This thing is.
No, I mean the other.
AI. Oh. Wow, that's.
If you had one who wanted to fly a freighter.
That's a super good idea. It might be working. It's probably working well. Yeah, it's probably not a problem. Yeah, say if you have a guy, say you have fly an MI8. I never tried that. That's a good idea. You see, it's really good. If you have an MI8 with the right name called logistic 1, it would need to fly. It will need to fly within the pickup zone to be able for the other helicopters to pick up crates. I think that's gonna work. It'd be really cool. That's cool. That's a good idea. Yeah. Any questions? Other questions? Any more things you guys want to do? No?
No, I think I've got some ideas. I'll try next week.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we cannot go through everything, but again, if you have questions, ask the guys who do mission design. It's not just me, but Fargo, Statua, Memphis. All those guys are doing a bunch of missions. They know. So don't hesitate to ask questions here. We haven't been through everything. The triggers on list, it doesn't matter. But
I'm hoping for part 2 and 3 and 4.
Well, we can do a few more things. But the idea really of the session is for you to have a minimum knowledge to try to create what you're thinking about. If you have a storyline, you say, I'd like to do that. I like this story. I'd like to recreate this story in a mission. You don't need to have a god level in scripting to do this. You can do this pretty easily. We haven't talked about. We should talk about this. We haven't talked about anti-air units, air defense. But well, anyway, I mean the air defense and the air defense, some air defense will be able to move. It's the same thing that what we did with tanks. There's a few more options that you can explore. Let's say if you're going to use I want US, I want Russia, and I want SA8, for example. Okay, I need to show you that just once. You see, I stop sharing my screen. I'm just gonna share only the DCS here. Okay, I place an SA8 here also. Let me see if I can zoom in. If you see, there's two circles here. The yellow circle is a detection range, and the red circle is the range where it's going to shoot at you. Okay, so it will detect you, but as long as you fly here, there's nothing to fear except that you're going to be detected. So the unit's going to look at you, but once you're getting into the red circle, then it's going to shoot you. Okay. This unit can move because it's on tracks, so it can go pretty much everywhere. The units in DCS, they have no limitation about. It doesn't matter if it's super steep or whatever. It just goes through everything. It can sometimes even go through buildings, so that kind of sucks. But most of the time, it tries to avoid it. It goes through trees, but it don't see through trees. So now there's a change. The trees are actually hiding. So if you having, for example, a Shilka here, or ZU-23, and you're placing it behind a set of trees. Okay, that's a bunch of trees. If it's dense enough, you can actually probably, or let's say like this one is dense, for example, you can probably approach it from very low altitude, and this thing won't be able to see you, or if it sees you, it won't be able to shoot you because you're hidden by the trees. So it used not to be like this before. Trees used to be transparent, but now it's working most of the time, so you can use that. SA-15, that's a bad one also. SA-15, they have a much larger detection range and engagement range. Remember that they have skins also for units. Every unit, they can have different skins. There's a desert skin in the mod packs, for example, if you want to do something in Syria that doesn't stand out too much in the desert, you can change the skin. Also in the advanced actions, so in here you can set up just the way I did for the 72. You can set up the ROE, what you want to do. You can set up something I wanted to talk about, the disperse under fire. Basically, when you're starting to engage a group that can move, it will disperse by default for 600 seconds. So for 10 minutes, it will try to move around, and that's just stupid. So if you want your group not to disperse, for example, when you start to shoot at it, you just have to disable this task. You have to force disable this task, okay? So in here, set option, so there's a bunch of set option, disperse under fire. If you're disabling this task and you're shooting at this guy, he won't move around. If you want this guy to move around but not too long, like for 10 seconds and then stop, you can set up this, for example. I'm using that all the time. At least they disperse a little bit, but they just not start to move around for 10 minutes. They just move around for a few seconds. Okay? The other options also, alarm state. So alarm state, you can set it up as auto, meaning that it's green unless it's detecting something. When it's detecting something, it's going to red. Or you can force the state to green. Okay, or you can force the state to red, meaning red. It's in that case, this thing, if it state to red, it will be deployed already from the beginning of the mission. If status is set to red, the radar will be spinning and the units will be ready to deploy. If it sets to green, and then it detects something, or it sets to auto, and it detects you within the range, then it will start to deploy. Okay. So it's going to take a little bit more time to be operational.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If it runs out of ammo, it stops firing permanently.
Yes.
If you put a truck beside it, does it rearm?
So yes, you need to put also in the case of Russia, you need to put the what it's called, transport 375 here.
Okay.
Okay, so within a reasonable distance, I think that's this one. Is it this one? I think that's this one that allows to refuel rearm, at least rearm. But
I
without it,
used the
yes.
wrong truck.
But I think you have to try. But unless you, if you don't do this, then it will fire basically whatever you have. So encyclopedia. I always forgot how many things this, how many missiles this thing have. What is it? Tor. Tor, crew 3, it doesn't say. 2 times 4. Alright, okay.
Yeah.
So 8 missiles. They can run out pretty fast of missiles if you have only one. Oh, that's new. What is that? Okay. Alright. Oops, shit. Mission editor. Load. There you go. All right. Any other questions? You guys think you can propose a mission in not too long? Because that's kind of the objectives here. That's having you guys starting to design missions. And again, don't you can start very small. Important thing, something that always screw the mission designer at the beginning is test your mission, not only in SP but also in MP. So if you have a mission, it seems to work when you're launching the mission in single player. Ask someone to help you load up the mission on your dedicated server, or host the mission if you want, or load up the mission on one of the dedicated server, on server 2 if you want, and try it for a few minutes with another guy, because mission behaves differently in SP and MP. There's something that works in SP that doesn't work in MP. So you have to test your mission. When you finish, test your mission, test the mission in SP, and then test at least with one other guy in multiplayer to make sure it works also, because it's behaved differently. So that's a strong thing. I got screwed up at the beginning because my mission was working superbly. I tried it, I tested it for a long time, and when I launched it on the server, it just didn't work at all. Okay. Yeah, there's other things to talk about, but it's gonna be a long time. I'm just remember. I mean, there's a way also to do the briefing. The briefing is the least fun part of creating a mission, but it's kind of necessary. A minimum amount of information should be really required. We have a template available at BSD. We made a template with all the things you need to do. We even have a form, a Google form that you can use that will ask you the information required and fill up the template automatically. So you can start with an empty template and fill it up yourself, or you can go through Google form and it will ask you the different information that needs to be in the briefing, and it will fill the briefing up for you. At least a basic, and then you can edit the form. You can edit the presentation, the slides, according to what you want also. But you don't need to start from scratch from the briefing unless you really want to. But there's a template that gives you everything you need to know and everything you need to put on for a decent briefing for your mission. Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, that's sorry that was a lot longer, 3 hours. But yes, I hope it's enough. If you want going into a second session for some more details, or if you feel like you can go for the scripting version or doing some script, that's probably not going to be me, by the way, because I suck at scripts. That's probably going to be Fargo or someone else. But you can ask for this. But I really, again, I really hope you guys be confident enough to build some simple mission and have it on the roster. Anyone It doesn't matter if you are RL3, RL2, RL1. I don't care. If you know how to create missions, you create missions. There's no minimum level required. There's no restriction to what you want to do except PvP and non-cooperative missions. So as long as it's a co-op non-PvP mission, you can do whatever you want, wherever you want, and we'll always be happy to have you guys with a new mission here. All right.
Yeah. Thanks
Brilliant.
very much.
All right. Hope it was helpful. I hope it was helpful. Have a good day, guys. Have a good evening also.
Really helpful. Cheers.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I learned a lot, so I will try to cover it.
I'm going to upload the video if you want to see that again. I know there's a lot of information, so let me just stop the recording